should always have a life sentence, or should anyone have a life sentence when they are released from prison. And so our goal is to make sure that we have a relationship with the prisons, not just Stateville where we're at today, but this kicks off an opportunity for us to build a foundation so that we can help people that's locked up. We know that many people in here have family members that feel the pain of their loved ones because of sometimes they talk about the conditions. And so we want to make sure that you understand from the director Harding and the warden Nicholson that we're going to build a partnership with the prison systems to do everything that we can to bring more money to make sure that when people return to our communities that they're ready to reintegrate in the communities. And before that, we have State Rep Lamont Robinson.
Glad to be here today. Again, we want to make sure that we're supporting folks across the state of Illinois to make sure that we're investing in our communities for folks to not be able to get into the system. But if they are in the system, we need to make sure that we support them. We're supporting them in education, we're supporting them in the trades, and we're supporting them in the event that they, again, do get into the crosshairs of the system, that when they get out, that there's support for them. And so we're here today to make sure that we understand what the issues are for the folks that are inside, but then also from the warden and the folks that are working in this system to make sure that we're doing right by the folks that are in the system. So thank you very, very much.
And so I think the director will introduce the warden, Director Harding. He's going to speak to the people too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you to Representative Ford, Lamont, and the families for being here. We invite partnership, and we're thankful that partnership exists so that we can all work to invest in the proper resolution of returning our offenders to useful citizenship. And so the department has been engaged and will continue to be engaged at a level that allows us to focus on offender-centered rehabilitation, proper resource alignment, and cultural transformation to help address what happens inside the prison so that we can work collectively together to produce a better outcome for those who are returning from the prison. And so we're excited about the opportunity to partner, sit down at the table and talk about what's needed, what's going to work, and what we can all do to make sure that transition is successful.
All right.
Awesome.
All right.
And I'd just like to take time out. I'm Warden Walter Nicholson. I'd like to take time out just to thank everybody here. I see we got some young ones out here also. So I just want to take time out to thank everybody for coming out. We don't have the best conditions out here today. But I just want you guys to know that your issues is my issues also, and hopefully we can get everything addressed, okay?
So let's go right to someone that Randy Ryder. I mean, he's done some. You did some time. Sorry, well, then you should talk.
Listen, my concern is really one thing, that individuals have an opportunity to better themselves.
Absolutely.
A prison sentence should not be a life sentence.
That's right.
At some point, most of these prisoners are going to return home. To what? They need resources. I just helped a brother a few days ago who was released 31 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. But they released him with no resources, none. He's homeless. If it had not been for a group of us who banded together to get that brother assistance, we might have another recidivist. You understand what I'm saying? What drives recidivism is poverty. It is not the individual moral compass. It is poverty and lack of resources and lack of opportunity. At some point, we must all say that if we truly believe, as we go to church every Sunday talking about redemption, well, at what point are the returning citizens going to be redeemed from the punishment that they were meted out? We don't need more punishment. We need more assistance.
Yes.
Basic necessities such as housing, clothing, and food are not privileges, those are rights. And we need to talk about that, and the African American community and legislators need to be out front. The Democratic Party, we must hold them accountable for the fact that we support them 97% every election cycle, but they've not done anything legislatively for the African American community since affirmative action, which benefited primarily white females. Did not do anything for the plight of the African Americans in the United States. I have written a pathway to citizenship, and I am asking that you support this pathway to citizenship. I've got a 4-step process by which you can get your record forever sealed. Thankfully, I have a sponsor, Brother LaShawn Ford, who has always been out front of the ex-felon issue. Even when it was not popular. See, when he was out there by himself. Now everybody on the bandwagon. Now, let's just do this here. Let's say that this is what we need to be talking about. Number one, the parolee must read is his or her board orders and his parole successfully. He must have a GED or a high school diploma. He must be working, actively seeking work, or involved in a college or vocational program. And next, he must stay free of felony convictions for 1, 3, 5, or 7 years, commensurate with the nature and severity of his crime. And if those conditions are met, then he or she should have their record forever sealed, where they can go in to a place of employment on equal footing with everybody else. Absolutely. And with that, I'm gonna yield because I know I can talk all day.
All right, and we have Brother Tyrone Muhammad. We're gonna make sure that we stick to the people that's in here that we care about and how we have to do everything to get them ready to come back to our communities as well. And if you have any personal experiences, that's perfect. Thank you. And watch him, he's going to give you the thing. Yeah.
Thank you, Representative Ford. Listen, he's nicer than me. I don't have to be politically correct. I don't play the politics when it comes to our sons in this place back here. After serving 21 years of prison myself and coming home to nothing. And while in prison, I decided that I knew that the state was not going to do anything for us. The city wasn't going to do anything for us, nor was the prison system going to do anything for us. So we decided we was going to create our own organization that would then allow us as men to link up and form our own lobby. No different than LGBTQ, the PETA, and dogs and fur have more rights than the men back there. These are human beings. When they come home, my whole concern was, how is it that you have enough money to house our bodies in this place? But when we return, that same funding that you use $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to house our bodies, it's never there for us when we return home to receive equal housing, economic opportunity. I don't understand that. You can't tell me that the same money to house our body is not available to assist us when we're free. I don't have time to play these political games. I've been in front of directors. I've been in front of wardens for 21 years. And never do that translate to anything. Even as a formerly incarcerated individual who serves society, who helped to prevent violence and helped to stop our sons from coming in this place. I myself, my little brother is Earl Faber. He's in there right now doing 85 years of state visit.
Wow.
I can't even visit my own brother.
Come on.
And my brother has written the warden. I'm not saying the warden even got his information. I thank the warden for the opportunity now to be able to make this place family friendly, where we're able to reach back. How was it that I'm able to write my brother back and forth from prison to prison, but when I return home as a free citizen, I can't even come back in there to visit my brother?
Wow.
So you know who I am. For 21 years, the system know who I am, or was. And then I'm unable to even visit my little brother. That is disrespectful.
It is.
That's
Inhumane.
That inhumane and everything else you want to put, Monica, you want to put on it. So all I'm saying is that my goal is to shut this place down. I know some men are not coming out of there. But in the interim of that, let's make sure our brothers and sons get the proper education, and when they do return, have organizations such as ours that they're able to return to, and then able to give back to society. That's what we're trying to do. You can't continue to hold us accountable for a crime we serve, for a punishment that we serve, and then when we return to society, continue to keep that moniker X on us. So we're ready to move forward, and with State Rep, I'm going to just tell you this. It's time for new leadership, and State Representative Ford will help us.
Mental health.
State your name.
Okay. Good morning, Ronald, R-O-N-A-L-D, Jackson, J-A-C-K-S-O-N. We are down here at Stateville Prison because there is a problem and a lack of funding in the seriousness of mental health. We send people down here, and the Department of Corrections has never corrected anything in the years that it has been created. And maybe that's because of the lack of actually hitting the funding where it should be. There's no mental health services down here. Psychotropic medication is not the answer, and we cannot continue to believe that somebody else is going to solve the problems that we send. When the city of Chicago closed mental health clinics, when they still have 5 clinics that they will not promote because the idea is that there will be an overrun, we are seeing that overrun in both jails and prisons. We cannot continue to believe that. We are the taxpayers. We are the people that fund this. We cannot continue sending them down here to southern counties for them to get funding for our people just being housed in incarceration. Incarceration is not at all any kind of method for serving those people. And the idea that once they leave, they come back even worse than what they left.
That's the problem.
That's the problem right there.
They come back worse than they left. And when it comes down to it, the city of Chicago closed 6 public mental health clinics to save supposedly $2.5 million. And now here it is, we have more people behind bars, and we can actually show you where statistically a lot of those people that were once served in those clinics have ended up down here or either in other institutions. We cannot continue institutionalizing our mental health issues. We cannot continue to send them down here to be victims of a system called incarceration. Correction. When there is no correction. We demand, we absolutely demand the public mental health networking is created. And that's the reason why we stand here with Representative Ford, the representative of the 2nd District, and these other individuals, because we know that healthcare is a human right.
Absolutely.
And we must make sure that those people that are at the bottom are cared for. We will not be silent anymore.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your name is
Justina Winfrey, Justinal Winfrey, Winfrey. I'm here today to stand in solidarity with not only the community, and even though we're outside of the prison walls right now, Edwin Davila is a part of the group of incarcerated victims currently, innocentdemandjustice.com. And I'm here representing that committee in order to bring justice to not only the folks who are currently behind bars, but to those who are also wrongfully incarcerated, who have long sentences currently and they didn't commit those murders. So not only are we addressing the issues of people who are currently incarcerated, our brothers and sisters, our cousins, our family members who we love and care about that we can't connect with, but we're addressing the inhumane conditions that they deal with right now. And as the sister stated that there was a young man who's not being given a hearing aid. Well, we have multiple people throughout Illinois, not just at Stateville, but also at Menard, where they're not receiving the proper care for their health conditions, whether it be high blood pressure, which ultimately would lead to a heart attack or a stroke. Well, they're not being treated for basic conditions like that, okay? And ultimately, long term, their health is being impacted. And these guys are not that old. These guys are in their 30s, early 40s, but they've been incarcerated for murders that they didn't commit. So now as we address the brothers who are currently in Stateville, these conditions have to be corrected. Our tax dollars provide the salaries for everyone who works in there. Let's be clear. Cook County Jail should not treat the inmates the way that it ultimately treats the inmates, because those are our people and that's our money. Okay, we have to demand better conditions. Next time, the next location, we need Cook County Jail. We want to see everyone out because all of you all have an incarcerated family member. And let's be clear, 1/3 of the Illinois Department of Corrections budget comes from the west side of Chicago, the Austin community. Change now.
Speak. State your name and spell it for me, please.
Hello, my name is Anthony Driver. It's ANTHONYDRIVER. And I'm here today to stand in solidarity with everyone here, all of the inmates that are behind me in this prison. But one thing I would like to shed a light on is that this behind me is a prison. Our neighborhoods are also prisons. Our school system is also a prison. From birth, as a 25-year-old, I know more people in here than who have went to college. There's been a lack of investment, a lack of opportunity in our neighborhood, and there's a lot. We need better living conditions for the inmates that are in Statesville Prison. I spent the early part of my childhood driving and traveling back and forth here to Statesville to visit people. There's over 100 people in my family. I'm the only male in my family to have an opportunity to go to college and graduate. I'm the only man in my family to have an opportunity to travel outside the country. And that's by design. It's not because I'm special. It's not because I'm better than anybody else. It's because we live in a society that breeds this type of environment, that fosters this type of environment, that puts people behind prisons and behind walls and spends $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 to incarcerate them every year, when most of them belong in a mental health institution. Most of them need help. Most of them need resources. So our playgrounds, our schools, our communities are breeding grounds that put people into a larger prison. When from birth, by the time we're born, we're already born in a prison environment. So I'm here today to say that I stand in solidarity with these inmates. I'm only 2 steps away, maybe 1 step away from being them. You're not always born in a position to where you do a crime to get inside this place. A lot of times you're just trying to survive. A lot of times you commit crimes of survival. And the last thing that I would like to say is that I would like to shed a light on the fact that Jason Van Dyke is on trial right now, and it is my hope and my prayer that this is where he ends up. Thank you.
You say it's because you hear that?
DC couldn't even say it.
My name is George Salter, S-A-L-T-E-R. I'm with Westside Health Authority, and we are here in solidarity and support of everyone that is here. The best way for me to explain it is when we have the opportunity to go inside and talk and have relationship and deal with needs, that's what we need more of here. Because there's a community on the outside of the gate that has loved ones and those that they care about on the other side of the gate. It was just 6 months ago I was speaking to a man at a summit here. We were blessed to have him walk into our office yesterday. And he said, hey, because of the relationship on the inside, I'm coming home to the outside, and I need. And we're part of the solution that deals with the need, but we need you to continue to walk with us and help us have access, so the things that they need, they get, so we have a community that is better when they come home. Amen?
Amen.
Amen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Delila Johnson.
Spell your name for me, please.
D as in day, A as in apple, L-I-L-A, Johnson. I have a compassion for these young people here. I had a son who was incarcerated, but he was overseas, and it was torture. However, the system has been on my mind quite some time, how corrupt it is and how biased it is. You cannot tell me that educating these boys, young people, women, is less expensive. It is less expensive than incarceration.
True.
And 80 years and 10 years and 50 years in a cage does not teach a person anything.
No.
How to adapt to being an animal.
Right.
That's how they come out, that's how they go back, repeat offenders. Prison, it can be work. If it's right. Correction, not corruption.
Right.
Yeah. Rehabilitation and transformation. That's all young people need.
Yes.
That's all they need. And I'm quite sure we're not the only people who commit crimes. A lot of them commit heinous crimes. They go home for dinner.
Yeah. And they still go home for dinner.
And then we're going to need somebody to send a strong message. I'm not that good at being a rally speaker, but we need to send a message that we're here for the prisoners so that they can feel the love. So whoever's going to do that, be ready.
Exactly. Good afternoon. I'm Zerlina Smith. I am a resident of the West Side Chicago, the Austin community.
Stop, Zerlina. You got to spell your name.
Okay, Zerlina, Z-R-L-I-N-A S-M-I-T-H, Zerlina Smith. I'm an Austin of the West Side. Well, resident of Austin community on the west side of Chicago. When you think about why we're here today, we're not here because we want to come here to visit our loved ones. We are here because we have to be here. We're here because the restorative system to justice back into the Austin community is 98%. When you have 98% of the population coming back home to a community with no economic development, disinvestment, resources that are the bare minimum, where we don't even have housing. We have no system that's in play for our loved ones to come home to. When you look behind me, don't look at it and think it's a pretty picture. This is the house of pain. And we live in a hostage mentality already in the Austin community. So when you close your eyes, wake up and look at the vision of what you see behind me, and then lay back down and walk outside your door and see if it's the vision of what you want it to be. We have children out here. We're doing civic education, boots on the ground right now, so our children can walk these streets and walk these halls to go back to their community to be the next leaders of the generation for their community. Because if we don't teach now at an early age, we'll have these 20-year stories of an unjust system with people being falsely accused and arrested and charged with bail money that they don't have. We have people that's in prison for $100,000 bonds, and we have people that's in prison with $100 bond that can't get bonded out because there's no justice when it comes to being black, any person of color. There's an X on your back coming home. You can't get a good paying job. Your children will be on the pipeline to prison with the education system. It's a grave to the prison. When you think of what you want to see, think of this prison behind you and remember that our children and our loved ones do matter. And get out here and get on the bus and do these tours and be engaged and get involved.
Thank you.
So anyone else? No. All right. So I think that there are like 4 million individuals that's incarcerated come and go in the system, and 2 million come straight from Chicago. And so now you want to know why we have so much violence in the city of Chicago. I used to teach. And so when you think about teaching, I think about the work that you guys have to do here. You can only do so much with what you have. So we're not here to fight with you. We're here to tell you that we want to work with you because we have family members in here, we have loved ones in here, and we have to do everything to be partners so that they can be treated humanely, so that when they come back home, they can reintegrate into our communities. We're here in peace, but we're also here fighting for our loved ones and the people that call our office all the time saying that they have problems with the system. And so I know that you guys are employed by the state. This is not your private prison. And so that means that you have to deal the cards that you're dealt. And so hopefully you'll listen to the inmates and their families when they tell you problems, and you take it to heart so that they're able to feel that their loved ones are going to be taken care of. I know, Director, you said that there were some things that the family should know about some of the prisons, the things that you have going on.
First of all, let me thank you. I think what you see is everybody who stepped up here had a good assessment of a system issue. And so Department of Corrections happens to be a part of that system. And so we stand ready to do our part. And what we've learned is some of the same things that you've learned. When you close mental health facilities, we wind up with. And so one of the offender-centered initiatives we've had is to educate our staff on the cornerstones, the principles of mental illness and how to address those things. Whether it's specific mental illness training, whether it is motivational interviewing, things like that that will allow people to approach a situation with a little bit more delicacy and compassion. And so that's just one of the areas that we understand and we've tackled as far as a problem within our system. And there are many more. It's just that sometimes you have to take them one at a time, and it takes time to work its way through a 13,000 employee culture, a 40,000 plus offender system. And so we hear you loud and clear, Representative. And as I said, inside and out, as a partner, we stand ready to help and do our part to help send our folks back to the community, restored with their useful citizens.
So you're the director. You work with the director's office, and you are like over all of the prisons.
So I have several roles, but the bottom line is they're all in some sort of statewide capacity, and so part of that is standing with, working with organizations in the community to identify and hear what some of those issues are, bring them back to the agency, and let us figure out, partner, work on, research how best to address those issues.
And you're the warden of this prison.
That's correct.
All right. And any more closing remarks from you?
No, I believe, like Mr. Hardy said, your issues have been received loud and clear. So I know a couple of you guys have expressed some personal issues to me. So I'm gonna make sure I get the names and different things about what's going on with you, and I try to immediately address some of those issues. Okay?
Fair?
Warden and
Fair.
Director.
We got questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When the prisoners are being released, is there any kind of exit interview that you give them resources and explain to them their rights upon release?
Actually, we don't wait until the offenders are getting ready to go home. We start that process when they get here. We assess them properly for their needs. We classify them according to those needs, and we try to program according to those needs. About 6 months prior to release, we start working on contact, resource intervention, things that might help them successfully transition. We do that again from 6 months to 90 days to 30 days prior. Some of the problems I think you've already identified is a lack of community resources at some points, but we do make every effort we can to try to connect the resources before they leave, so that when they get home there's a smooth transition. We are not under any illusion that that doesn't always work, but what we try to match based on what their needs are.
Are they being told that they have the right to vote upon release in the state of Illinois?
Well, that's a statute, and I know that if the question comes to us, we know the answer. As far as the statement made, don't forget you have the right to vote. I'm not sure it's done that way, but our clinical staff who do work with them, our placement staff who do work with them upon release, and our parole staff are sure to reiterate that.
You got a question?
Yeah, I have a question about the conditions of solitary confinement inmates, and also do you know offhand what percentage of inmates are currently in solitary confinement, or do you have a number?
That number and segregation ranges around 3.5% of our total population.
And that's over about 40,000 inmates?
Correct. And what I can tell you is that number has descended from roughly around 5% over the last 5 years. The same actions that the community has taken towards diverting low-level crime are some of the same things we were to take note of and do the same thing with our segregation. For things that can be handled in an alternative way, we've utilized those ways. And for those that are not.
Has there been any discussion of eliminating the process of solitary confinement altogether? Or getting that down from 3% even further?
There's always discussion on reducing that amount. We commonly talk about ways, and not just amongst us, but amongst the offender population about what works and what doesn't work. As far as eliminating segregation altogether, that conversation does come up from time to time. But I think the reality is that there are some situations where it just it can't be a blanket.
So to that, I have a bill, and we've been advocating to eliminate solitary confinement, and we've talked to so I do have a bill to eliminate solitary confinement, and we've been in negotiations with the department, doing everything that we can to do that. But there are some concerns that I continue to hear from the director and the warden, saying that sometimes they have to do some form of not quite solitary confinement, but segregated segregation. So I think that Zerlina.
I just have a quick question. As a case manager that deals with returning citizens, what real connection do you have to the organizations that do the work with the inmates once they come home? Because most of the inmates come home with really no stability, and when most of the families that they come home to have Section 8, and we know that no one who lives on subsidized housing can bring them into their house, what real plan, like State Rep says he's working on a bill, what real plan do they have when they look at the stats and the statistics as to what do they need and where they're returning to? Shelters? Are we looking into using some of that prison money to develop a temporary housing location that can trade them or wrap around services? What are we really looking at when we talk about the individual needs, the assessment? How deep does that go? As I say, as a case manager for 99% of this population at the Nonviolence Institute, resources are at a bare bone. There's no skin, no blood, no nothing. It's bone. So when you look at that, what does that look like?
The first thing it looks like is complex. What that means is it's going to take more than the Department of Corrections Placement Resource Group to kind of sit down and talk about what that might look like. So what it looks like is we all need to sit down at the table, because it's a complex issue that deserves more than just a one angle answer. And so while I don't want to sound evasive, I do want to sound like I said before, that we are ready to sit down and talk about those issues, because it's a community entity, or maybe a contractual entity or a state-sponsored entity, but either solution has to be vetted with all the stakeholders so we can see what the best possible outcome is.
Questions?
I got one.
I do too.
And the lady right
That's
here.
all. Her behind.
I've got a couple questions as far as segregation. They have, what's the maximum amount of time that they can be held in segregation? And then also, in some of the prisons, Menard, Pontiac, they stopped using the word segregation, and now they have administrative detention, which is basically the same thing. That's the first question. Second question is, as far as education, are they putting in process any educational courses outside of GED? Because if they come in without a GED, they're mandated to get a GED. But if you come in with a high school diploma or a GED, are they offering, like they used to do, college courses or certifications or anything, so they could be reformed, viable citizens, contributing citizens when they come back out? Because if they're sitting in the cell for 23 hours and they only go out for yard and to child and to this, what is the point in them being here and you releasing them back into the society with no visible means of support, no skills, anything?
So you have two questions, so let me be careful to separate them. One is regarding segregation and the different types. There are
and the length of time.
Right, and so there are various types depending on the nature of the situation and the extent of that duration associated with the type. And so depending on whether that's an issue of operational concern or one that is protective in nature, it really goes to the length of that. It's kind of difficult to just say it's X amount of time. So with regards to education, I think we all know that there's a strong correlation with the level of education as it relates participate in some sort of educational or vocational program. But the reality is, we can't do that. We don't have the funding.
The money.
And so what we have done is we have stepped outside of the agency.
They got all that money. They getting.
And other vocational systems,
What they doing all the money?
including apprenticeships,
Paying them staff.
are related that has allowed some gentlemen, some women to get apprenticeships in
taking out the salary.
trades that can sustain the
You only get a small amount filtered down from programs, education, etc. And then they were moving on to education. In 96, 98, when they took prison back, that's the first thing they did was move in. There's a reason why they do that.
With your
The reason why they do that.
there's 4 things I understand from being incarcerated that's very important. Comes in,
It's been
visitation,
proven
phone,
that get a degree,
and
you're less
all
likely
the,
to come
and
back.
that's the 3 right there.
They
And
can
mail.
survive off new crime, they survive, etc.
As far as visitation, as far as with the family, I would hope that you will look into the difficulties. Like for instance, how is it okay? And I'll talk to the warden and later as it relates to my brother, but just in general, things that you can possibly look into. That you can identify me from an administrative level or from IA level that this is my brother while I'm incarcerated and allow family opportunities while we in. But the moment I'm released.
Wow.
I can't even produce an ID or even my paperwork that showed that I'm the same person who you allowed to communicate with my brother back and forth. There has to be an opportunity for us to connect the families. There has to be a way to better do that security-wise that's acceptable to you, that allow me to come in once released from your custody, the same guy you allowed to write his brother, then check in and say, warden, I'm on my way, I need to see my brother. And without having to go through all the loopholes and getting thrown back, because I've called the warden office a couple of times and never received any answer in that regard. That my brother has filed paperwork asking for me to be allowed to visit, and he has.
Let's get to that point. Is it legislative that we have to change that?
Well, first of all, I want to answer the question.
Yeah.
So to your 4 points before, I got 2 answers, automation and technology. And we're working on both. We understand the need and relevance for things like commissary for visits, and we're currently in the process of automating those things that will make it easier for the men and women in our care and the families to interact with others.
Is that possible?
So with regard to being formally incarcerated and coming back to see loved ones, I can tell you, first of all, that we have contractual folks who used to be incarcerated with us that work with us, that come in every day and teach and program.
Yes, sir.
We have volunteers who were formerly incarcerated that come in and interact with our population because who better to share that message, etc. So to your point, I won't even say that's a universal issue because we have made exceptions on a contractual basis and a personal basis. Everything is case by case. So I would encourage you after this to get with us and let's talk about that and see how we can make that reality.
All right, we really run out of, we got to be back on the bus at 12 o'clock.
Can we just address the quick question about the voting rights of the prisoners currently, especially since we're going into
I appreciate that.
season?
Yeah.
So November 6th.
Prisoners in here, they can't vote. No one can vote in prisons. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's because of the state laws.
Correct.
All right. And just so you know that we want to work on policy to change that so that people have a right to vote. That's one of the things that we advocate for also. Any more questions? Yes.
The person gets out of prison at 10-5,